Welcome to Two Tall Guys Talking Sales. I'm your host for this session. I'm Sean.
And I'm Kevin.
And together we're going to talk about a unique problem that you might be having in your sales process in your sales world. This 15 minutes is designed for salespeople, sales managers, and CEOs of the company that are trying to increase their revenue and trying to be more productive in your sales processes. So let's get started.
Let's get started indeed. Big topic today. This is as we're running towards the end of the year, thinking about next year's top of mind. So today we're going to unpack what I think is a really important topic for sales leaders, and that's territory design. All right, there's a few different aspects. So we're going to draw a line right down the middle of our thinking page and say, well, we're going to talk about territory creation design, but we're also going to carve out some time on this 15 minutes to talk about what do you do with a territory that's gotten too big that now requires more people in it? How do you break apart a territory without breaking apart your sales team? So Sean teed up on the growth on designing a territory. Bring me up to speed on your thoughts about how to create a growth territory for any small business.
Sure. So I think that one of the things that you have to consider when you create your territories is you need to make sure that there's enough business in that territory to accommodate the salesperson, right? Don't get, you get half the street or one block at a time, that kind of a thing, right? So let's be careful about that. We used to joke at one company I had that, we get to call on the left side of the street 3 days out of the week, and then somebody else gets called on the left side of the street the other 3 days, right? So that's what we had. That was when I was a young rep, and there was way too many salespeople in the territory, and they were really trying to do a good job of making sure we had coverage. So let's make sure that there's enough ability to sell, enough there. And then we have to talk about territories as defined by, are they named accounts, right? In other words, we know what kind of customer we sell to. So therefore, we're going to really focus in on, we're going to name 30, 40, 50, 100 companies that you're going to go after? Or is it going to be more of a, you get this county, you get this state, you get this city in your territory? Depends on how big your company is and what your target market is. But you have to start with that. What is the premise of what you're going to go after? Mm-hmm. I love it if you know enough about your business, you know enough about who you sell to, that you actually could get to the point of naming accounts that you're going to go after. I love that capability. But a lot of times the small businesses that we're working with and we're helping, they can't get there. They don't know enough about how to do that. And they sell to way too many companies to actually say we're going to limit that effort.
Completely agree. And let's not forget the vertical-based sales rep, the one who calls on just this product. He or she calls on, just metal manufacturers or just chemical producers or just mining or just, the only, like I only call on so-and-so. We see that a lot with really big companies.
Yep.
And then we also see it with some smaller companies where they have somebody, on their sales team who's just really good at selling into that vertical, right?
Yeah.
The rest of the sales team puts on blinders and says, well, I don't call on that market because so-and-so does already.
Right.
So let's not fall into that trap unless you're of a size where you're purpose-driven and you have the resources to do that. So great idea there, Sean, to call out geography, revenue size or named accounts, verticals, dollars available in territory. Right? There's a lot of franchisors out there who say, well, I can only have this many franchisees in a certain geography, protected geographies. But when we're thinking about territory design, I like to think about a few things. I've actually built a few territories in my career, which included everything from stock plans to service and warranty. You got one supply chain, but you've also got a reverse supply chain, right? When you got to send warranted items back, delivery, training, staffing, resources, everything. All these things should come into play as a business owner when you're thinking about entering a new market. Now, if we're only thinking about geography and it's in your existing geography, so existing geography, new product or new customers, some of those questions are already answered for you, but I think the larger ones are where we think about how many hours am I going to match the salesperson to in the territory to get the results that I want? If I want to lead that, if I was doing the work myself, what would the expectations be? Right.
Yep. Yep. So and some of this starts to go into that sales leadership function,
Mm.
right? So if I have a territory that and we just got done with election not a couple months ago, so gerrymandering is always a
Mm.
topic of conversation, right? If I have a territory that looks like a gerrymandered politician's territory, where I'm guaranteed to win my election, well, that doesn't mean that I'd be guaranteed to win my territory as well, right? So, if I can't make a certain number of sales calls in a day, and maybe I'm a little showing this be a little old school where we had to get in the car and go see our customers as opposed to just calling on them on WebEx or Zoom or whatever. But there is that reality of can you physically cover the territory in a reasonable amount of time with the budget allocated for your sales expense of doing that? So, if you sell a product nationally, well, do you have the budget to take somebody to Chicago, to take somebody to Minnesota, then take somebody the next day to New York, and then take somebody the next day after that down to Dallas? If that's your territory, that's kind of what you're expecting that salesperson to do. So you got to think logically about that. And there's some issues that you just have to deal with as a sales leader, because your salesperson is going to go with wherever they can sell to. And if there's a hot lead in Minneapolis, I'm going to Minneapolis tomorrow. Oh, wait, now I got to go to New York City. Then I'm going to turn around and go to Dallas. If I don't care about expenses, then that's an issue.
100%. So if you've never experienced that or never considered that for your business, the cost of a sales call is what we're talking about. This could come up in the framework of launching a new product. What's the most expensive way to launch a product? Send a bunch of people everywhere over and over and over again
Right.
versus what's the
Exactly right.
least expensive way to penerate a market. And you think that's why there's so much launching at trade shows that goes on. So anyway,
Exactly.
lots to
Exactly.
consider. That's right.
Yeah. I was just agreeing with you. Now we are at the halfway point. So let's do that other side of the equation. Let's say we've got a territory now that is doing really, really well. And we're pretty confident as sales leaders that we could get more revenue if we did something different on dividing up that territory, adding another salespeople, combining, making 3 out of 2 kind of situation. Let's talk about that a little bit, Kevin.
Now we got to be careful here, Sean, because there's somebody who's probably cleaning a firearm and is about to shoot their computer right now, thinking about dividing their territory. So we're not saying divide to save money on commissions. That's not what we're saying.
That's right.
What we are saying is that there is a reason typically when a territory gets too large or there's too much of a concentration where we can't serve the whole territory, that something's got to be done. And it's not meant to take money out of somebody's pocket. But there's a number of ways to go about this to make sure that the company still grows, right? So there's a few ways to divide a territory. One common way that we see is, just add a person. You mentioned it earlier, left side of the street on 3 days a week and right side 2 days a week. And then flip. So, right, you can saturate, right? That typically, as a former and recovering salesperson, that typically does not go well. The people on the team see that as an absolute grab out of their back pocket. However, when we talk about purpose-built sales reps, hey, you're going to call on these named accounts in this territory, and you're going to call on the net new accounts. Having a strategy at the sales leadership role becomes really important. Not just waking up on a Tuesday and going, it's a good idea. I think I'm going to change some stuff. Right?
Right. Yeah, that's a big issue, right? So, yeah. I mean, you need to be able to look at a salesperson in their territory and realize that they are going crazy with the amount of things that are happening. And therefore, you have a pretty good idea that some things are being dropped. We're not getting to all the leads. This is a salesperson. He's doing well. So, and don't think that just because the salesperson is doing well that, gee, I'm going to cut his territory. That's maybe not what you want to do, which is kind of what you're alluding to, where somebody just threw their computer out the window. But the reality is that if a salesperson is doing well, if they're doing all the right things, if they take part of their territory away, they're still probably going to be okay. You got to do some analysis, got to do some checking. When I was a salesperson, I got my territory cut a lot. There was one time, and I was in a high growth company, software industry. I had my territory cut 13 times in 2.5 years.
Wow.
And I made my number the whole time. And so it was okay, right? It just, there was that much business. I couldn't get to it. They cut my territory and my revenue went up because now I could get closer to my counts too. So I really understood what they were doing. So you do need to, as a sales leader, help your salesperson understand that I'm actually going to help you make this right. You're going to be okay. I'm going to work with you, and I'm not going to overly judge you if you have a minor dip in your revenue as you recover from this change.
Right, right. Yeah, if you're spending 40 weeks a year on the road, or if you're a Million Mile Club in the first 3 years, you're spending more time traveling than you are in front of the customer. One of the paradigm shifts that territory realignment, adjustment, condensing changes should allow for is more time selling. Right?
Right.
Some of the statistics we often hear as sales professionals is 70% of a salesperson's time is not spent in front of the customer. So as sales leaders, when we're thinking about growth territories, our focus should be on getting our team in front of the customer more, either more time or more frequently or more something, because we're building relationships. That's why that software we use is called customer relationship management, not customer reporting management. Right?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah, a great point that we really need to make sure that this is a win.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to make sure it's a win for the customer as well, because the other thing you don't want to have happen when you're dividing territories, adding more salespeople, congratulations, you're growing. But you don't want to say, hey, really good customer, I got this new green guy. He doesn't know anything about my product, but he's going to be great. Don't worry about it. Right. He's got a lot of skills. He was summa cum laude or whatever at school. So he's going to be fantastic. So we're going to have him work on your account. The customer goes, whoa, 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 whoa. I really liked working with Jerry. So you do need to be careful of that. We need to talk about account transitions. That's probably a whole 15-minute episode right there, is account transitions. I tend to like some type of depending on the length of your selling cycle, that the first month or so, you're going to get most of the revenue that came from that customer. Then you got maybe 50-50 after at a certain point, and then maybe less as you're making the transitions. That way salespeople aren't getting burned for, I created that deal, I made that happen. New guy came in, he got credit for it. That's not fair to me. So let's make sure that is fair, right? And let's make sure that we're taking care of the customer and taking care of our salespeople, because growth is a good thing, and that's what we want to engender. We don't want that great sales guy that just did a fantastic job of growing that territory. We don't want him to go, well, I'm not going to work here anymore because all they do is cut my quota or cut my territory. I can go somewhere else and have that happen to me, right?
Yeah. All good points. So we've really hit some big topics here, a big topic in a few different ways. How to design as a sales leader a growth territory. Sean, you gave us some great things to think about from a what to consider when building it. Like, what are the high factors? What are the people factors? And what are the customer factors? So I think we can wrap this up by saying, hey, we got a good plan here. The goal for us as sales leaders and for people in territory is to sell more.
Yeah, I agree. Let's just sell more. And if you are having to cut your territory, then the reality is it's because you're growing, and that's a good thing, right? So let's make sure it's a win, it's successful. Everybody's happy that this is happening, even though it might be in the short term, it might be a little painful for a sales rep or two, but it's a growth thing. So let's make it a positive thing in the organization if we're going to go through that.
Yep.
So I think we're kind of wrapping up here, and I appreciate everybody hanging on, and this has been a great topic, Kevin.
Yeah, and happy holidays for everyone. We're looking forward to a successful 2023.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us again on Two Tall Guys Talking Sales. We appreciate your time, and in this 15 minutes, we hope you got something valuable out of this. Join us next week where we'll tackle another issue that may be impacting your ability to grow your revenue. Happy selling.